Hello, everyone, and welcome in. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome back to Rat Pack Fantasy Football. Today, we are covering Week 3 of the Waiver Wire for some of the replacements we need. Looks like it wasn't too bad of an injury week. We'll get into it in a second, but before we do, I've got Jesse joining me today. How's it going, Jesse?
It's going good. Finally wrapping up the Sunday week 2, getting ready for Monday night. Hoping nobody else gets injured, so we survive and we move on to week 3. But that's what I'm looking at. It should be a couple good games tonight, so I'm excited.
Hopefully we have another good show. I'm not going to lie. We were in that recap show last night, and there was a few times where I was reading some of the stats, and I'm like, fuck, we were on in the morning sit-start show, man. There was a couple of calls we made where I was like, fuck, we were right on the money with that one. So
yeah, it worked out. It definitely worked out.
So this week, we don't have any of the season-ending injuries, it looks like. The only ones, and like I said, this is a Tuesday show, but we're recording Monday afternoon, so we're still waiting on some of the injury developments and results, but that's, probably typical. I don't know about you, but in a lot of my leagues, I let waivers run Wednesday morning because I like to let people have as much info as possible. I don't know how many times you see all these managers load up on player X, and then the next day it comes out that the starter is actually going to play, and it's like, well, wasted 90% of my fat budget on a guy who's not even going to be the guy. So I like to let him run. So hopefully yours run Wednesday as well, and hopefully by the time you're hearing this, you have more info than us. The ones we're monitoring, I would expect Anthony Richardson to miss next week with the concussion. Yeah. It sounds like Saquon's going to miss multiple weeks. We could have David Montgomery missing a week or two. Who knows? We're still waiting on that. And at receiver, it's kind of a mixed bag. I don't know if we really expect anyone to miss, but who do we have injured? Adams was hurt. Garrett Wilson, I think, turned out all right. There was somebody else.
Metcalf was okay. There's one guy I think that might be hurt, but it's not. I'm blanking on his name. Sorry.
I'm blanking on his name as well, and I'm sure we'll get to it eventually. But I'm sitting there. I had two receivers, and I said, 2 of them are injured, and we talked about them last night. One was Adams, but for the life of me, I can't remember who the second one is. And we have PF breaking news as we're talking about it to help. David Montgomery expects to miss a couple of weeks with his thigh bruise. So that's timing for our show here, as it's definitely going to play a role. Not like anyone was really getting Jahmyr Gibbs off the waiver wire, but that's going to annoy me. I can't remember who the second injured receiver was.
Well, I know Odell got hurt, but you weren't really playing Odell anyway, so I don't count him. I'm trying to
exactly. It was a decent receiver too.
Metcalf's dealing with a rib injury, but he's supposed to play, so he should be fine. I'm trying to think of the other guy. I know this is going to bother me too.
I know, and that's why I'm bringing up my week 3 rankings here on Fantasy Pros, and I'm going to click on the wide receiver list here because that's going to bug the hell out of me until I remember who the third one is. Or the second one is. St. Brown had cramping, but I don't think that was anything serious. You said Metcalf, but it looked like he was all right. Ridley went down with what looked like an ankle injury after he ran into the goalpost. I don't mean to laugh, but that's funny. I don't know what the word is on him. Keep scrolling down. Garrett Wilson, they said, was just got the wind knocked out of him.
Yeah, so Ayuk has that shoulder thing he hurt, but he played through it, so he should be fine. And then there's Jalen Waddle's dealing with some oblique injury, so he might see less snaps, but he was fine too. So I'm not I'm going down a list of guys. I don't see anybody that's
I don't see anyone that we missed either, and I'm down to wide receiver 60, so maybe it's possible that whoever it wasn't that big of a deal after all. But I guess we can get into it. We'll start with quarterback. I'll run through my little list here. Like I said, I got to prep my waiver wire article for later today. So by the time this comes out Tuesday, you could also head over to the league winners if you want the full breakdown of our week 3 waiver wire. But for now, at quarterback, I'll break it down like I do my article. I got the shallower league guys. Those are the guys over 75 or 70% rostered. So Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, those are, your options there when we get into the streaming weeks. But for now, Jones and Goff seem like they have to be started or have to be at least rostered. Then the mid-range leagues, we've got Derek Carr at 40%. Look like Derek Carr. And if you need a little bit deeper one and you want to see how he pans out tonight, it's kind of a stash for tonight. 31% owned for Kenny Pickett. Mac Jones looks solid again at 23%. Sam Howell was good. He's at 20%. And then for the deep leagues with some stashes, Baker's at 15%, and he looks like he's going to be a serviceable Superflex QB. CJ Stroud only at 9%. He looked like that was by far the best I've seen him look. I mean, he's 2 games in, but even through the preseason. And then we've got Ryan Tannehill, who apparently is still alive, and Gardner Minshew at 1% here, who I would be stashing if you own Anthony Richardson, and there are none of the above options as a backup. Did I miss anyone or that you're thinking of, or is there anyone on that list that you want to talk more in depth about?
I would throw Stafford into the Pickett range because, as far as percent roster, he's at 30% in ESPN league. So Stafford, he's going to bump up after they played really well against the 49ers, but he'd be a guy I'd be looking at too. I
did have Stafford originally on my list, but I removed him. He's looked really good in the NFL in 2 straight weeks. It hasn't translated to fantasy. It's been 15 and 17 points. So he's been like the second and third highest rated NFL quarterback. It's just not panning out for fantasy. So that's the only reason he was excluded this week, but he's not a bad option either.
Yeah, I think it's the touchdown luck is going against him because freaking Kyron Williams already has 4 touchdowns on the season. So if you reverse it, he's looking a lot better. But yeah, I like if Pickett survives this week, we'll see how that goes tonight because, it's going to be an ugly game. So I'm not too confident in Pickett, but, it could work out for him just because he has a little bit mobile scrambling quarterback. So I like targeting those guys just because the floor's a little bit higher. Let's see. And then Carr. Yeah, Carr's like that. I'm not super excited about this matchup, to tell you the truth, just because it could be another ugly game. I think his projection is 38 points or something along those lines. So it should not be what we saw from Detroit and Seattle last week and stuff like that. So, yeah, he's a guy like long-term. He should be fine. Both those guys will give you points and be replacement levels, particularly if you lost Richardson. And we're not talking about the super deep leagues where you have to get a Gardner. I like going after those games, the mid-range QBs who can be serviceable for you.
Like we talked about this yesterday on the recap show. I think this is – you don't want to lose Richardson because he looked great, but this is one of those situations where I think most people aren't going to be scrambling for a backup here to replace him because pretty much the universal theory for drafting Richardson was pair him with a safe quarterback. So it's likely that if you drafted Richardson, you may already have Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, or Brock Purdy on your team. So you may not have to pivot. I get there's going to be leagues like I think maybe there's a really deep league where it was super flex and people went QB crazy. And I have Richardson and I might have Richardson, Kenny Pickett. And then my third QB is someone way out there. But barring the really deep, crazy super flex leagues, there's, you probably got some safety. But if not, like I said, there's plenty of options. Hopefully it's only a 1 week issue, which is what I expect. Because I don't know if they said he's got a concussion, but he's in the protocol. So I'm not sure if there's a difference in how, I know they said the average is 10 days to clear the protocol. Is that for someone who had a concussion or someone who tests negative? I don't know. I'm not really sure on the specifics of it, but I anticipate he misses week 3 and then is back week 4.
That seems the best way to target it. You're probably going to need someone for the short term. So, I would just take the guy you think has the best matchup between those guys we're looking at. And it can vary for you, but it depends what you're looking for. If you want to shoot for the upside, you go after Howell or something like that. If you want maybe somebody who's going to give you a higher floor, some of these older pocket passers we were talking about would be the way to go.
Tight end seems hopeful. It's got some good young guys with some potential here, and some of the old guys are throwing up numbers. We'll start with the highest rostered. If they're not already rostered, especially in Dynasty, both over 70%. Dalton Kincaid, Sam Laporta cannot be on waivers in any league. I get it. In redraft, Kincaid's not performing as well, but they need to be rostered. 67% Cole Kmet, despite how bad the Bears look. In the 50s, we have Okonkwo and Hunter Henry, so a mix of young and old. Redraft, I think I like Henry at this point right now. He's looked far more productive and like a big piece of that Patriots offense. In the 30s, we have Gerald Everett, Hayden Hurst, and Jake Ferguson. Ferguson, once again, would be my preference, especially in Dynasty. We have Luke Musgrave at 25%. A nice, solid, sneaky one here at 10% is Zach Ertz. And then at 4%, we have Tyler Conklin and Logan Thomas, both some veterans who are producing. If you are desperate and have lost a tight end, due to injury, like I did with in Scott Fishbowl, I had Greg Dulcich as my tight end one because I missed on all the good tight ends and ended up with Dulcich, and it's working out well. What are your thoughts? Did I miss anyone? You got anything you want to add in there?
No, I like the guys you mentioned, particularly the rookies. Like it's super promising. We saw Musgrave and Laporta both over 80% of the routes run again, and like that's coming from rookie tight ends. We just don't see that. And Kincaid's down in like the 60s, so he worries me a little bit more. Like I think he might be a little bit more capped than those two, but he's just a really good talent. So if you can get your hands on any one of those three guys, I would happily target those. I like the Hurst call and Henry. Like those two are veterans who've been good in the league, and they're continuing to be good. And those offenses desperately need those guys. The Patriots wide receiver core sucks. The Carolina Panthers wide receiver core sucks. So those guys are going to be focal points of the offense. And we saw Hayden Hurst in week 1 how he did. It's a bad matchup in week 2, but if he balls out in this week, then you have 2 weeks to go off of. So yeah, I like targeting those old guys. If you can't get the young promising guys, those two older guys look good to me. And then Ferguson's the last guy. It's a good offense, and Dallas loves using their tight ends that particular way. So whoever the tight end one is, it looks like it's Ferguson. That's the guy I want on my team because he's going to be involved. He's going to see targets, and like that's fantasy points for you right there. So yeah, I like that list of guys in general.
It's funny. We should be talking to whoever the backup is in Chicago. I posted a thing saying it was a generic highlight that I think copied over from the NFL or whatever on Twitter, and it was just saying that at this point, I think I'd rather have Anthony Richardson over Justin Fields, even with the injury. And it's got 60,000 views, and I didn't even look at the clip itself. And then after getting thousands of comments on, God, he looks terrible. How did he miss this? I watched the actual clip, and good God, was he terrible. He has no pocket awareness. He's missing open receivers. There's 3 guys running wide open, and he takes a stupid sack. So literally, I didn't even watch my own clip. I had to go back and rewatch it, and I said, shit, maybe we should be stashing the backup there. Who's the backup? It's not Andy Dalton. Is it?
Who is it?
That is a good question. Quarterback, Nathan Peterman, isn't it?
Oh. You don't. If it's Peterman, you don't want to. Like he's awful. He's so bad. He might be the worst quarterback in the league. He'll make. I can't say. I didn't realize. I got horror stories. That dude had like 5 interceptions in a quarter. I swear.
I didn't realize it till I rewatched the clip. I was like, holy shit, he was worse than I thought. Like I knew it was bad, but I didn't see those particular clips and said, holy shit, this is terrible play. But
the one where they have the camera behind him, and you see the guy running on the right side, like up the seam, wide open. He doesn't even look at him. There's no one within 5 yards of him. The guy's walking touchdown, and he doesn't even throw to him. You're like, what are you processing?
And then he scrambles around and runs right into the line and gets sacked. Yeah, it was impressive. So moving on to running back, we've got a lot of the best options are really in the 80s now. So these are really for shallow leagues. But if Brian Robinson, Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift, or Raheem Mostert are for some reason on your waiver wire, add them now. The 60s, we have Kyron Williams, who the hell knows what's going on there. But for now, it looks like he's the one. I caution you that we did this last year, and what was it, Darrell Henderson we added everywhere? And then 2 weeks later, he was cut from the team, and it was Cam Akers again. So let's not get carried away. Zach Moss is the one I want here. He's in the 50s. He had 98% of the RB touches and 98 of the percent of the RB snaps and was only not in for one running back snap. I think for at very least the next 2 weeks without JT, he's a must start. Maybe even longer. Who knows what the Taylor situation holds. In the 40s, we have A-Chain and Jalen Warren. I think Warren is going to take over this backfield from Najee at some point. And A-Chain I'm holding because I can't see the guys in front of him staying healthy, and he's explosive. The high 30s, we have Bigsby, who did nothing all week, and Roshan, who did next to nothing all week. Both, I think, will have better days. And the low-rostered guys under 20% are Tyjae Spears, who I don't know how he's at 17%. He's had a bigger role in this offense than anyone expected. I can see they're taking work off the plate of Derrick Henry. Sean Tucker, I like a little less because Rachaad White looked decent, but I still think he factors in. And then at 0% owned, name your Giants running back. What do they have? Brightwell, Breida, Eric Gray. If you are desperate because you lost Saquon, I don't think any of them are great options, but they're all free. Did I miss anyone, or you got anyone there you want to talk about?
Yeah, we can talk about Brian Robinson. Like he's basically taken over that backfield, and he looks promising. So him and Swift, I would be ideal. Obviously, it's a high percent, it's 80% range. When we're getting down into the next level of guys, like you're talking about Zach Moss, Kyron Williams, those guys, do you have a decent shot of getting them? And there are the bona fide RB1s in the backfield currently. At least Kyron Williams has longer term like upside because we expect JT to come back. But in the short term, if you need somebody for the short, like 2-week window, like I trust Moss more than I do Kyron. It's just those touchdowns are really fluky. I don't expect him to have he already has 4 touchdowns, so that's going to regress in the negative way for him. So I would prefer Moss of the two. And then when you get down, like you're talking about A-Chain, like I just have a soft spot for A-Chain. But it's interesting, like Jeff Wilson's coming back too soon, and he's in like the 30s. So if you want to grab either one of those guys, I'm fine with it. Like you just want a Dolphins running back. We saw how good Mostert was. He had like 25 points last week. So you just want Dolphins running back because it's one of the better offenses in the league. And if they're playing and they're on the field, they're going to score points. We saw this last year where Wilson and Mostert basically split time. And whenever they played, they were both double-digit points. So, yeah, if you get your hands on A-Chain or any one of those guys, like that's the way to go. And if you're desperate and you need a Giants running back, I'm praying for you because it's going to be ugly for this next month. But I would go Breida just because he's done it before and they would trust him. But, yeah, I don't feel good about any of those Giants running backs.
Yeah, the mid-range ones here, Kyron and Zach, are probably the ones you want if you need them short term. And then pick whichever one you like more. Like I said, I like Zach Moss too.
Yep.
Once you get under 50%, it's basically stashing rookie or young backups and just hoping one of them takes on either a much larger role or, gets an injury in front of them. I like A-Chain with that, backfield full of glass and injury history. Jaylen Warren, I think, has looked better than Najee, even though they say he's not going to take over the number one role. He's just going to be the third down back, so that scares me. Bigsby looked really good in week 1 and crappy in week 2. Roshan, I think, is the easy one here. I don't think he should be on waivers anywhere. And like I said, I like Tyjae Spears too. I thought he had a huge role. So personally, if I have the bench space, I'm adding any of these: A-Chain, Warren, Bigsby, Roshan, Spears. So with those 5, if you had to rank those 5 for who you're picking up, obviously probably more of a season-long outlook because none of them are immediate. Who would you take in order of A-Chain, Warren, Bigsby, Roshan, Spears?
It's going to be Roshan just because he's the one the easiest path to work. If you're looking for a handcuff, like somebody that's going to step in, like I want somebody in either the Miami offense that would step into it, or Spears, actually. Spears seems just dynamite. So if Henry were to go down in injury, like I think he's going to be the best actual play. And then the other guy's Bigsby. Like him and Bigsby seem like the two that if injury happens to the guy in front of them, like they got RB1, like they could be a guy that's a benefit to your team. So it depends what you're looking for. If you want someone in the short term and long term that's going to be productive, it's Roshan. He's already carving out a path, and I expect him to take over the backfield in a couple of weeks. So Roshan's the easy target. And if you're looking for someone with more like contingent upside, it's Spears or Bigsby for me.
I think for me, out of the 5, the only one that I have a significant difference is Bigsby. He's 5 by far for me. The other 4, okay, so if all 4, take Bigsby out of the equation, like I said, if the other 4 are on my waiver wire and I can only add 1, I think what I'm doing is I'm going in and I'm putting in a 5% fab bid on all 4, and I'm happy with whatever one I get cheapest. If the others go for 25 and I get Warren at 5, great. If the others go for 15 and I get A-Chain at 5, cool. I'm cool with all of them. I think I would prefer Roshan and Warren, and then the next tier would be, A-Chain and Spears. So, but like I said, they're all in the same tier. I think they all have the same upside with a little bit of roadblock in front of them. So I'm putting in similar fab bids and I'm taking whoever I get cheapest. That's kind of what I did last week with Zach Moss, Kyron Williams, Josh Kelly, and there was one more running back who I can't remember. I put in 5% bids on like all 4 of them, and I think I ended up with Kyron Williams in 90% of those leagues, and I don't mind having Kyron Williams now. Whereas, I think, it was Gainwell. So the 2 that went the most expensive were Gainwell and Kelly. Gainwell didn't play. Kelly looked like crap. I got quite a few shares of Kyron, which I'm happy with, and a few shares of Zach Moss. So in the end, it turned out the 2 cheaper options were the ones that I'm kind of glad I got. So like I said, throw in a bunch of bids at the same price and just take whoever the hell falls to you and let the other guys fight and waste an extra, if the other guys want to waste 15 for Roshan, I'll just take A-Chain for 5. I don't care. in the end, it's
Scattershot
probably going to
approach
be similar stats. It's not like
So there you
Roshan's going to finish as RB3 on the season, and you're going to really miss it. So.
No,
even I
exactly.
know everyone's getting crazy because you're seeing Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua is not going to finish this way. This is a mirage. This isn't going to last. He's not a wide receiver one. It's not going to happen.
Exactly right. It's just been absurd the stuff going on with him. So
And you see
it's just like, oh, maybe I'll find that next guy. No, that guy's gone. His name was Puka. You had a shot on him. If you didn't get him, tough break. You just got to move on.
I seen on Twitter when Cooper Kupp comes back in week 5, how much does this move Kupp down with Puka Nacua? No, we're doing this backwards. How much does this move Nacua down? No. Yeah, Puka Nacua could be great. He could even beat Cooper Kupp. Oh, wait, they already have Cooper Kupp. Like, what are they doing?
It's like, yeah, it reminds me of when they had Woods and Kupp going a few years ago. Like, that's kind of the range of outcomes to expect for Puka to be like a very good number 2. Like, if he's this guy, then yeah, he could easily be that number 2 guy. But Kupp's gonna eat. It's just people get absurd with it.
I don't think he's nothing. I think he's probably going to be a wide receiver 3, a high end 3, low end 2 the rest of the season. But I seen someone talking on a pod yesterday, might have even been this morning. One of the questions was, do I trade away Garrett Wilson for Puka Nacua? What the fuck are you even doing? Why? What are you doing?
I can understand if you're worried, like, then they didn't have Kupp coming back, but they have like one of the best wide receivers in fantasy coming back. So like that's just silly. That's just silly to me. But yeah, I like the thing with Garrett Wilson is, goddamn, Zach Wilson sucks, man. It's like it took him to do everything. It took him everything. He had 2 receptions and he had to house one to get points. It was just like, man, I'm so frustrated with Zach Wilson. It's abysmal.
Yeah. All right, wrapping it up here with the receivers. We'll start with the high end ones. These guys are probably rostered in your leagues. The 3 above 75% are Zay Flowers and JSN. They should be everywhere. Zay Flowers is awesome. JSN is going to be awesome. The one I have, I looked and he's 80. Oh, I got the hiccups today. He's got 84% rostered, and I was amazed to even put him on this list. But I got him this week. I got him on waivers in 3 different leagues. Hollywood Brown. I get it. He hasn't been good. I got him in waivers in 3 different leagues, and they weren't. I couldn't understand it. People dropping him for I forget who they dropped him for, but it wasn't anyone good. So those 3 I think are must adds. Then you have Eli Moore. He's going to be a roller coaster. Into the 60s, you have Nico Collins, who's probably going to be the hot waiver wire ad of the week. Yep. You got Treylon Burks. 50%, I loved Rashid Shaheed. Also at 50%, they have 2 Chiefs who are probably going to be hot, although most of them were probably drafted in Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. In the 30s, you have Tyler Boyd, Rashee Rice, and Marvin Mims. And then some late dart throws here with guys who had good weeks, all 10% or lower, 11% or lower, sorry. Jalen Hyatt, Jaden Reed, Tank Dell, Josh Reynolds. What do you think of them? And did I miss anyone?
So I really like the Tank Dell and Jaden Reed call, and like honestly Marvin Mims, all 3 of those rookies, because they're going to be more involved as the season progresses. And with like we saw Reed, we saw even Mims had a good game, like he housed 2 of them, and like Dell had 10 targets, Reed had 8 targets, he led the team in targets. So like that's nice to see from those rookies that they're going to have a more promising role. Obviously, it's not the JSN or Zay Flowers case, right? It's going to take them a little bit longer just because they're later round picks, but they should be valuable for you. So if you can get them on the cheap, as opposed to spending all the way up for Nico Collins, right? Because sometimes people will do that. He's definitely going to be the hot waiver wire ad. You'll get him for a lot cheaper. So yeah, you can go that route with those guys. If you have any shot at getting those guys, I think a way to usually target it is to get the guys before the Monday Night Football game. Case in point, like we're talking about Elijah Moore, like he's available in 50% of leagues. So I know this is going to run after, but if people were to grab the guy before he's playing, you could always drop him after if you're worried about it. So like that's a little cheat code to do it on Monday night if you have anybody that's droppable. But yeah, he's going to be the wide receiver 1 tonight. It's just, what are you going to do? And then you could target, freaking Allen Robinson or whatever. But yeah, I like Elijah Moore.
I love the leagues where you can drop bench players even after they play. There's nothing I love more than dropping some dud that's already played and stashing, like you said, stashing some. I have a whole article on it, my stash guide, stashing someone in the Sunday nighter. Then if he sucks, tonight's great. Stash someone for the Saints-Panthers game, and about 5 minutes before kickoff, if he's not if I stash Jonathan Mingo and at the end of the first quarter, he's been on the field for 3 snaps. Drop him for Eli Moore, like you said, and then just keep fucking. I have a whole article, the revolving door article, about just this whole process of stashing these guys and roster churning the bottom of your bench. But wide receiver is one where dynasty. I guess it's a little more relevant because you can keep these guys. These tend to have longer careers. Redraft, I'm never big on spending fab money on wide receivers. There's so many who have blow up weeks, then they don't do shit. They're inconsistent. It's just the money's not there, or the value's not there, so I don't put much money into it. Typically, I'm big on spending all my money on running backs, but I find the more and more I do these waiver things, the cheaper and cheaper I get, and I no longer want to chase the big names. I don't know how many times I've done the Jeff Wilson with the Niners where I blow half my fab budget and then it's Michael Hasty week or whatever the hell it is. So I don't know. Like, obviously the high end guys, if you Hollywood, Zay, JSN, if they're on your waivers, throw a hefty amount on them. Like, I get everyone loves how Nico Collins and Tank Dell looked in that Texans offense. The Texans aren't going to score like that every week, and this is going to be inconsistent. Like, you may be able to flex Nico or put him as a 3, but I don't want to count on Nico. Like, I don't want to drop 40% of my budget and count on Nico all year long. So
no, you should never, like, 40% of the budget and plus should be for guys that are like true impact guys that are going to make a difference in your lineup. We don't know if that's going to be Nico or not. Like, we still have question marks about him. And the thing about Houston is if this pass rate holds up, Stroud's going to set the record for pass completions and attempts. NFL record, not just rookie record. Like, they are passing at an absurd rate. So it's going to come down. Like, they're just not going to throw 780 plus times or whatever it is right now. Like, that's just ridiculous.
But people get crazy. Like, even week 1 with Puka Nacua and that, like,
yep.
Okay, good example. Jahmyr Gibbs goes out next week with season-ending injury. You drop 40% on David Montgomery. That's a different story. Or conversely, David Montgomery goes down. If Gibbs is available, you drop it all on Gibbs. But
100%.
Dropping insane amounts. Like, so far, out of the 4 positions, or like all the positions we've done, I mean, okay, so you can pay up. If someone was dumb and dropped Hollywood, like in my league, or someone drops Zay Flowers, you pay up for Zay Flowers. If someone's dumb and panics because of an injury, say they were really deep at wide receiver and he was their wide receiver 4, and they're decimated at, running back or quarterback, and they drop them, sure, you pay up for the bona fide stud. But, like, do you see anyone on here that you think is worth, like, at any position, that was worth more than a 25% bid? Like, DeAndre Swift? Are we sure he keeps that role?
I'll throw a good chunk of change at Swift just because of how good he looked in that offense. But, there's question marks with him, right? We're not 100% sure with any of these guys. That's kind of why they're on waivers. But like you're saying, running backs are the guys I'm going to like throw that hefty amount on because it's a lot easier for them to hold on to the role where it's just they walk in, they get it, and they can stay with it. Wide receiver, it's a lot more talent-based, and it's a lot more situation involved. Like, they got to earn those targets. So you could be, it could be some wide receiver 3 like we're talking about Tank Dell. There's no guarantee he's going to be good. Like, there's serious question marks with him. It's a lot easier for a running back to like step in that week and be involved and at least in your lineup. So I'm with you. That's why I always target running backs over wide receivers.
I'm looking through my list. I will do my article tonight, and then tonight, maybe tomorrow. I normally do my waiver work on all my leagues, going through all of them and putting in my waiver claims. I'm looking at a lot of these positions, and I see me putting in like 20 bids in some leagues where it's like a $3 bid on 5 different running backs, a $3 bid on 5 different receivers, $3 bids on a QB or 2 and a tight end or 2. This is going to be one of those weeks where I have 20 waiver claims in to fill my roster spots, and I get 3 players out of 20, and literally I spend a combined $8 or $10.
This is definitely one of those weeks. It's just like we're talking about scattershot. You just take a bunch of different guys and hope you get a few of them, just because it's a lot of similarity between them. There's not much differentiating. Like in week 1, it was different. We had guys jump up and like they had established roles and all of that. This week's a little bit different. So like there's a few guys like for the running backs we talked about earlier, like they have a better shot, but like a lot of these wide receivers, there's question marks with them, and they're not even the wide receiver on their own team. So like you have to take that in mind when you do this.
At each of the positions, I'm trying to look, and if I was in, a desperation spot, what are the guys I'd be most willing to spend on? I think at quarterback, I'm looking to spend most on either Jones or Goff. If I was desperate, I feel comfortable hitting them pretty heavily over 25%. Tight end, I don't know. Maybe Sam Laporta, but I don't want to go 25%. I'd go maybe 15 or 20. Running back, if I'm desperate, I think I could load up 25 or 30% on Brian Robinson or DeAndre Swift. Mm-hmm. And at receiver, if he was somehow actually available in my league, I feel comfortable going over 25 for Zay Flowers or Hollywood maybe. But like there's some guys if I'm desperate, but all the guys that I feel comfortable loading up on are the guys who are most unlikely to be on my waiver wire. So I don't really think there's a tangible, like anyone below 50%. So if we use 50% as the cutoff line, the best quarterback available would be Derek Carr at 40%. I'm not unloading on him. We have Devon Achane and Warren and that group at 45, not going crazy on them. Rashid Shaheed at 50 at wide receiver, not going crazy there. And the best tight end under 50% is Jake Ferguson, who I like, but I'm also not breaking the bank. So of the guys who are, reasonably expected to be on my waiver wire, I don't think there's any of them I'm willing to go over 10 on.
No, yeah, you get like we were talking about with the guys that if you want to break the bank, your entire league's probably going to break the bank, right? If you see it, so you're going to have to spend it for those guys. But we're in this range, it's more just like that's why we're talking about lower bids, target multiple guys, and you can look at schedule if you want to differentiate or anything like that. But yeah, these guys all have issues, so that's why they're kind of lower. So I'd be fine, if you really are desperate, like you talk about like Laporta, or you needed, somebody like Ertz just to get you through the few weeks. I get it, but I wouldn't spend up for any of those guys. Like I'd rather just target Henry for cheaper and just get him because he's been really good and just go with Henry, right? So you can get the cheaper guy. So it's fine. Or then, you get like Rashid Shaheed. He should be a solid wide receiver 3 later on this year. There's all these guys down here. So I'm not too particular about anybody this week.
So I think the theme of this week's waiver wire show is going to be put in small dollar bids on multiple players at whatever position you need, and just be happy with whatever guy you get out of that group because they're all similarly valued. Aside from if someone does something really stupid and drops a guy that shouldn't be dropped.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, that concludes our week 3 waiver wire show. I am Aaron for Jesse. This has been Rat Pack Fantasy Football. Take care, everyone, and have a great day.